Good afternoon to everyone who have joined us today for this LEGO Education Computer Science and AI launch webinar. I know there are many teachers still on Easter break, so welcome. Thank you for giving up a little bit of your time in your holiday. Hopefully you're enjoying this with a good chunk of Easter egg. And for the teachers who have already gone back to school ready for the summer term, a warm welcome to you guys. Thank you for joining me at the end of your school day as well. And for the companies that are joining us as well, a very warm welcome to you. So I would love to know, first of all, before we dive into this webinar, I'd love to know who is actually attending today and what year groups do you teach? Do you teach Key Stage 1 predominantly, Key Stage 2, Key Stage 3, or are you a mixture of everything? Who do we have today? Just give you a couple of seconds to enter your answers. Okay, right, let's see the scores on the doors, Kim. Who have we got with us today? Oh, okay, a really good mixture. So 42% Key Stage 1, 42% Key Stage 2, a couple more in Key Stage 3, and then we've got a large chunk is other, which I'm assuming is because you teach across multiple year groups, key stages, or you're a business and you're looking to bring this in. So a very, very warm welcome to you all. Hopefully, regardless of what key stage you predominantly teach, you will get something out of this that'll be valuable in terms of understanding what these kits offer and how you can integrate it into your curriculum. So this is what I'll be covering today. So during this webinar, we'll be exploring the forever changing world of education. And that is due to the external factors of technology and AI in the world around us. Then I introduce the kits, and we'll dive into both the kits themselves and all of the teaching resources and the electronic resources that the students have available to them. And then we'll look at the classroom impact and how we can actually embed this within our curriculum. Because that is when kits like these and solutions like these are really powerful, is that they're not just an activity that we do once, but we really integrate it into our curriculum and it enhances what we do as teachers, making it really fun, engaging, and memorable. And then at the very end, I'll open it up to a bit of a Q&A. So if I haven't answered anything in particular that you're looking for, that is the time that we can do it. So first of all, as you'll all be aware, technology, especially AI, is evolving at an incredibly alarming rate. AI platforms are now able to create highly realistic images. They can even mimic a human's writing style, create movies. I've seen some that create movies as good as sort of the film industry now, and so much more. And this has a dramatic effect on us as humans in the workplace, at home, how we live our everyday lives, but also in schools. And it comes with enormous benefits, but absolutely equally some enormous risks and talking points which we need to educate our pupils about. Now, AI is having a profound effect on us, but it's going to have an even greater effect on our pupils when they enter the world of work. And this has been proven in many different recent studies. One being the World Economic Forum Future Skills Report. And this was carried out in 2025, and they were collecting all data from businesses to figure out what skills people are going to need for the future workforce, more specifically in 2030. And here are some of the big findings. So one is that it's going to be a massive job transformation, and it's already happening. Because of the integration of new tech and AI, jobs are having to shift. So we're needing more people in robotics and big data and AI roles as opposed to other roles out there. So 22% of jobs globally are going to be disrupted. That is happening already, but is going to happen even more so by 2030. And you can see that they've estimated that 170 million new jobs will be created, while 92 million will be displaced. So really exciting. There's going to be loads of new jobs, but there's that massive shift, and you can see a lot of them will become redundant because of these new skills and the demands for these new skills. Talking about skills, what they discovered is that skills are sort of the real currency these days, not necessarily what we know, but the actual skills that we bring into the workplace. 40% of current job skills will completely change by 2030. That is an enormous percentage. And 63% of employees say that the skills gap are their biggest barrier. Then what else they've found is that technology is obviously a really important element to learn about, to put ourselves in good stead for these future jobs. But the thing that absolutely makes us human, in a world surrounded by AI, those human skills are absolutely essential. So when we're looking at creativity, resilience, teamwork, these are the skills we're going to have to foster more and more going forward. So the big message is this: across all sources, the same pattern emerges. Jobs are changing faster than the curricula that we're teaching. Skills are starting to matter more than learning the hard facts. And human skills are as critical as those new technical skills that we need to teach. And what this means for our pupils is if we get this right, their chances of getting a job in the future, being skilled in the use of digital elements and understanding AI, is what is going to be available to them. If we get that right, they're going to have a really good grounding going into their future in this world of work that's changing constantly. So I want to launch another poll now. And I want you to imagine you're in class. How confident do you feel teaching the necessary AI skills to your pupils? Do you feel like you have a good subject knowledge on AI to sort of give to your pupils at their level? Or is this something that is new to you and still looking to tackle as a school? So can you let me know if you're sort of not confident in bringing it down to their level and making sure they've got the foundations, you're somewhat confident, or that actually you've adapted your curriculum and you're very confident at delivering this? I'll give you a couple of seconds to answer that one. Okay. So I can see that 36% of you said you're not very confident. Yes, you're probably using AI platforms like Gemini or ChatGPT, but to actually bring it down to a safe level for the pupils and for them to understand it is quite a challenge. 50% of you said somewhat confident. So you might be exploring age-appropriate tools at the moment that is helping teach AI literacy. And 14% of you say you're not very confident. That you're very confident and you're starting to actually embed this into the curriculum with age-appropriate content, and the pupils are getting what they need out of it. Okay, interesting. And this is sort of where Lego education comes into the picture. Now, regardless of knowing Lego education, you would have heard of the brand, the Lego Group, because it's made some incredible construction toys for, I think it's over 90 years now. But Lego education is their education STEM. And now for over 45 years, they have created products that address the hard skills that are in demand at that time, whether it be engineering, coding, etc., as well as allowing kids to develop their soft skills through the collaborative, hands-on learning approach that they have to their kits. So let's take a little trip back through memory lane. Some of you, this might be a little bit nostalgic. For others, this might be brand new, but I will show you where they've come from and where they are now.
The 80s, a decade of innovation. One would forever change the face of learning. Lego Education. Created with one goal in mind, Lego Education set out to reimagine the way we learn. And for 40 years, that's exactly what we've done. In our earliest days, we pioneered the advancement of STEAM learning before it even had a name, helping lay the foundation for understanding complex concepts. We recognize the power in bringing a hands-on approach to education, ensuring that even the most intimidating STEAM subjects could be fun and accessible. And we saw that by building confidence in learning through exploration, collaboration, real-world application, inspiration, and innovation, we could ignite a lifelong love of learning. And now as we look back, we're excited to celebrate these 40 years of learning through play, and even more excited about what the next 40 will bring.
I love watching that video. It's very nostalgic, especially if you've had some of the older products like the EV3. You can see pictured on the screen there. But as you can see, hands-on, engaging, collaborative learning is at the heart of Lego Education solutions. So what I'd like to know before we go on to the next part is, got a webinar full of people today. Which Lego Education products have you used previously? Or is it your very first time dipping into the world of Lego Education? Have a go at the poll, and let's see what veterans of the Lego Education world I have in here. I haven't gone too far back. Just recent history. Okay, let's see the results. Oh, we have a mixture. So some people have not used a kit at all. 41% of you, actually. But I can see there's 23% of you that are the veterans with the EV3s from back in the day. A brilliant, brilliant solution that's still going strong. Lego Spike Essential, Spike Prime, absolutely. And then the Brick Q, a little bit, but not so much. Fantastic. Okay, so what comes next? How is Lego Education going to support the adoption of all these hard skills that we've mentioned, or AI literacy, computer science skills, whilst also still developing those soft skills that make us distinctly human? Well, I'm very excited to introduce to you guys the Lego Education Computer Science and AI solutions.
For whatever they love, wherever they're headed in life. In a world where computer science and AI are everywhere, we help them build the skills they need to excel.
I'm gonna try something. I already picked one, but we. Oh yeah. Oh, really cool. Hey, I want to build a roller coaster or something like that.
For every teacher, new to computer science or already experienced, we've got you covered.
I did it!
We have the new Lego Education Computer Science and AI kits. So here is the breakdown of the 3 different age category kits that they have. So there's one kit for years 1 to 3, one for years 4 to 6, and one for years 7 to 9. And as you can see in each of the kits, they come with 30 curriculum aligned lessons with the building instructions for the kids to build the model linked to that lesson. Each box as well has this very new, modern take on their boxes. So before they were obviously the double depth Lego Spike boxes. They've gone for this more streamlined, stackable box version now. And it has these nice little clips on the side as well, too. We don't have any Lego spillages, which is always a welcome sight on a box. And as you can see next to that bullet point, it says 1 kit for 4 students. This is a different approach to what they've had with Lego Education Spike Essential and Spike Prime. They were geared towards 1 between 2. We've now got this new sort of collaborative learning where it's 1 between 4. And that's the same for the Lego Education Science kits as well that were released near the end of last year. As you can see then, every single box has Lego bricks. Wouldn't be a Lego set without it. And they will vary in shape and type and color depending on the models that are being built for that age group. You can see as well, it comes with the Lego bricks, but it also comes with hardware, and that is the electrical components in there. So you can see for years 1 to 3, it'll come with 1 single motor and 1 color sensor and these connection cards, which I'll demonstrate afterwards. And it also comes with a USB cable. The years 4 to 6, you can see it comes with 1 double motor, 1 color sensor, and then the connection card, and again, the cable. And then the 7 to 9, for the more complex computer science and AI lessons, it comes with 1 single motor, 1 double motor, 1 color sensor, 1 controller, and 2 connection cards per kit. So that's what comes within the boxes. And then to complement that, we have the free teachers portal, which is where all of the lesson material is housed. It's your teacher's one-stop shop for accessing all of the lesson plans, the lesson presentations, the notes, and the curriculum alignment as well. And then for the pupils, they've also got this brand new Lego Education coding canvas, which, if you're familiar with Lego Education Spike Prime and Spike Essential, is basically the successor of their app. Which is web-based, but also you can download it via iOS devices. And it's block-based coding, safe and intuitive. What's different this time round is that there's no unit plans installed in the software. The pupils use a pin to access the lesson when the teacher gives it to them at the right point. But again, I'll show you that in a moment. So let's unpack some of these core components. I'm going to start off with the teacher resources first, so you can see what you would get when you were prepping for and delivering a lesson, and then you can then see it from a child's perspective. So I'm just going to switch my screen to my other screen. Okay, brilliant. So what you should see now is the Lego Education Computer Science and AI Teachers Portal. And Meg, if you don't mind, if you're in the chat, if you wouldn't mind dropping the link into the webinar chat for people to access. The Teachers Portal, the first thing you need to know, which is really important, you do not need the kits to access this. This is open, it's free. All you need is a Lego Education account, and then it's just free to create. Once you've done that, you can then access all of the lessons for all 3 different kits, okay? The years 1 to 3 one will be released in September when the box is released. But you can see you've got a getting started section, you've got lessons, And you've got FAQ section as well, which answers things like how long the battery lasts on each of the pieces of hardware. But if I go to lessons, you've got all the different unit types. And what you'll notice is Lego Education have gone down a route of naming the units based on the skill you're teaching. If you think back to the Lego Spike kits, it was things like amusement park, quirky creations, and some skills were grouped, but it wasn't as obvious. Now what they've done is they've really streamlined it, and they've labeled every unit based on the course computer science skill you are teaching. So if you are delivering loops, you've been doing it in Scratch in your lessons, you would then go to loops and you would have those lessons here. Okay. As you can see below each of the lessons, it will give you a description and it will tell you the skill it's working on. And what you'll notice is as I hover over each of these lessons, every single lesson, similar to the new Lego Education Science kits, are designed to fit within a 45-minute window. And what that means is that teachers can deliver their input, the kids can build, code, tweak their code, expand on it, and pack away all within a 1 hour lesson window. And that's brilliant, especially if you're in a school with multiple number of forms in a year group. It means you can be done and dusted in the hour, and you haven't got kits built and thinking you have to deconstruct them before the next class get it. Okay, so let me click on one of these. You can see this one is that pupils will create a program that uses a repeat loop. So if I click on this, this is what a typical lesson page will look like. It will have the name of it, and you'll have the lesson objective at the top. I'll come back to these in a moment, but these are the lesson presentation and the notes to go along with it. Then you have an electronic copy of the building instructions. You don't really need to use this because the pupils will have access to that already in their kits, but it's a nice to have. And then what we'll have here is a description of what the lesson is all about. Really importantly, how it aligns with the national curriculum. It will give you an assessment rubrics for you to use to benchmark the success of the pupils. And it also gives you a little bit of information about the knowledge in which they are learning in there. Lego Education have also taken on this structure of I can statements. So when I was in school, it was more of a success criteria. So these are the things that we'll be able to do by the end of each lesson. Then they've got a couple of nice to haves here. So how we can take it further and how it might link to other topics in the curriculum. If I scroll back up to the top, you will also see in this gray box a pin. That pin is what is given to the pupils for them to access the coding section for the lesson on the coding canvas. But we'll come back to that in a moment. And then here, it will let teachers know what hardware they're going to use and therefore what they need to charge ready for the lesson. Okay. Then we have the lesson presentations. Now, this is something new for the new Lego Education Science and the Computer Science and AI kits. Spike did not have this. So this is a really lovely resource for teachers to have because it provides the structure of the lesson straight away. It's really intuitive. It chunks the lesson well, and it also gives a couple more features that we can utilize in a moment. And it means that teachers don't have to make their own resources for this. It's a big time saver. So you can see we've got the learning objective and the I can statements, and then it will progress through. So this is the hook, the big question at the start. It will introduce what we're going to cover. It'll tell the pupils what page to turn to as they're building, and then so on. And it will nicely chunk the lesson. It's got things at the bottom here like timers. So if you want to give a specific amount of time for the building process or the coding process, then you can do that. You've got that in your ability to do that in the slides. To complement and sort of to go with the slides, we then have the facilitation notes. And these are basically PowerPoint presentation notes where we've got the slides and we've got the way in which we can deliver it at each point, including timings, which is a real win. So for us as teachers, if we had our own lesson planning, we can, if we needed to, we can actually lift this out of it and put it on our own school planning. It's a real time saver. Okay, so that is the teacher's portal and what you would access as a teacher. What I'm going to do now is switch to my camera. So hopefully you guys can see me now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this time to show you the kits physically and talk you through what would be in the box. So this is the computer science and AI for 11 plus. You can see we've got these new streamlined boxes, lovely clips. So if I did have an accident, it is not going to cause a huge mess in my classroom. If I unclip it, got these nice translucent lids. This lid is actually used for different lessons at different points. So it's really, really handy. It's got different measurements on it as well. And then if you take a look inside, Lego have streamlined the sort of organization process. If you think of the Lego Education Spike Essential, it was all color coded. Spike Prime was done by function. What they've done here is they've color coded it, but more in sort of groups. So you've got transparent white and gray, you've got greens and blues, and then more of the colorful elements here. Much, much bigger sections, far fewer sections. So what that should hopefully mean is when the pupils are deconstructing, they don't have to look for too many slots, that they are putting it in quite easily. Now, when you first open these kits, you see some Lego pieces that you just don't get in the Lego Education Spike Prime or Essential. You get some really lovely ones. You get some that are like tracks. You get larger wheels. And you also get these sort of rubberized pieces as well to make your models a little bit sturdier. And then obviously then you have the hardware. So if I lift these up one by one. So this one here is the double motor. You can see it's not just a bigger motor like the Lego Spike Prime one. It does actually have a motor on this side and a motor on this side that can move independently. So you would be able to tin on here and then you would connect it and so on. These motors can actually be used without coding. So if I was to spin this, you can see it actually moves in the motion that I did then. So I did a little rock from side to side and it will keep that motion going. Can be useful for some cases. You might not find that useful for your coding. You can also spin it around if it was a car on wheels and you push it forward and it will keep that motion. Okay, now you probably remember in Lego Education Spike Essential, the motors were tiny and if the kids grabbed them like this, there's a tendency to break them. These are actually designed to actually stop with your hand. So you can grip them and stop them and it's absolutely fine. It's well made like that. Okay, so that's the double motor. Single motor, same principle, but just with one motor to control. You also have these controllers in the 11 plus. So they're sort of like a little gaming pad, really. But these can be connected via the connector cards to the motors, and you can actually drive them without being coded, or you can actually code them to do specific actions as well. And then the final piece of hardware is the color sensor. So very similar to the color sensor in the Spike kits, we've also got one here. What you'll notice is the lack of wires, which is brilliant because you could be coding one element on the other side of the desk to another. And what you'll also be noticing is a lack of a hub. So there's no longer the need for a hub to actually provide the power to the hardware and to actually send the code to the hardware. It's all linked wirelessly to your device, and the code will be sent out to whichever piece of hardware it needs to communicate with. Okay. And then you have these connector cards. Now, for the Lego Education Science kits, these are used to like I said, join something like the controller here to the motor itself, and you would tap it, and it will create a link, and you could actually drive it. What they're used for in these sets is to basically assign the card to the motor. So when you're connecting this Bluetooth device, you can easily find it on the coding canvas. And I'll demonstrate that in a moment. But if you can imagine, if you didn't have these cards and you've got 8, 9 of these in a classroom and children are all trying to connect, you won't know which one's which. So this basically says you're going to be the orange one for this one with this number, and that's the one you're going to find. Okay. And then the final element of these kits we have are the 4 colored mini figures. They're not there just to look pretty or to decorate their models with. They do have a particular purpose. And the purpose is that a child in their group of 4 will collect one of these. So I might be red. And what it does is it assigns them a role within the building process. So imagine I'm red, my friend Jimmy's blue, Cassandra's yellow, and Jessica's green. When we are building our models, what you will see in the instruction book is the 4 people. And you can see that if I was red, I would be collecting and building this section. So each of us are building at the same time, which means it's great. No one's waiting. Everyone's building at the same time. And then we bring it together as a group. And we continue that process through the booklet until the model is finally made on the final page of that section. So it's a really, really brilliant way of making sure that all 4 children are involved in the building, giving them a role, but still working together to bring it all together in the first place. Okay, so that is the kit. What I'm going to do now is switch over to the coding canvas. So I'm going to share my screen again. Just a second. So that one, there we go. Okay. So the kids have got the kits, but obviously when it comes to the coding part, they need a device. So like I said, this could be a device that's web-based, and you use Google Chrome like I'm using now to access the web-based version, or you can download an offline version on an iOS device. I wasn't sure initially if it was offline, and you can use it offline, but I've put it in airplane mode and things, and it works fine, which is brilliant for, I know if companies are on this call and they go and deliver web workshops in different schools, you can use it offline. Now, they completely streamlined this. So the pupils can either create a new project, a bit like making a brand new project in the Spike app, and it will give them access to the entire coding selection, or they can enter a lesson code when their teacher gives it to them on the slide. So I'll type in 1228, and that's the striker pose lesson. And if I click start on this, you will see, click this away, it actually gives the pupils a bit of scaffolding for that lesson. It will give them a couple of blocks to start off with to get them going. Okay. In terms of connecting, I'm just going to click connect in the top right hand corner. I did just click this off. In fact, I'll go back. It'll be much better if I do that. So 1228. Okay, so in terms of connecting, this is what it looks like. So with Spike, you would have a hub, and it'd have a number like hub 1 or hub 2. Like I said, we don't have any hubs anymore. So I have this orange card here. So I'm going to click on the orange card, and I'm going to click next. Okay, and what it would do is it would say it's now time to connect your dual motor. So you would tap on it and turn it orange. Then you click next, and then you tap the Bluetooth button. and then it would come up with the orange one. I'm not sure why it's not doing it right now. Let me just try this way. Connect. I have an orange card. There we go. So you can see I tap it on, I tap the color, tap the color, tap the power button again to make this nice fancy tune. And I click next, and you will see now that the double motor has appeared up in here. And I know it's mine because I've used this orange card with the number 0817. So I'd click on that and I'd click pair, and then I'm good to go. Okay, so that's the difference in connecting this new hardware to it. And you would just repeat that process for each of the pieces of hardware you're using for that lesson. Okay, right, I'm going to switch back to my slides. Is there any questions coming in at all, Meg and Kim, at this point, whilst I just try and clunkily change back to my slides?
No questions in at the minute, but we'll keep an eye on. Is anyone wanting to contribute and ask any questions at the moment?
That's fine if not. All good.
Silence.
Okay.
That's a no.
Can you see my slide deck again now?
Yes, we can.
Lovely. Okay, let's carry on. So I've done this bit. Done this bit. Okay. So what does it look like as a teacher workflow? Because with any sort of new initiative, any sort of new kits, we want to make sure that these kits can be used as much as possible, and they're not collecting dust on a shelf because there's a barrier of being too difficult to integrate straight away. This is the workflow. So you would go, okay, let's look at the curriculum mapping document and let's see what I'm teaching in my computer science. Oh, I need to teach loops. I'm going to go to the teaching portal, find the loops lesson, familiarize myself with it, and then I'm basically good to go. Okay, there's no hunting around for different resources. It's all in one place, and we're good to go. Meg, if you don't mind sharing the curriculum mapping document in the group, that'd be amazing. What LEGO Education have got really good at doing with these new products is making sure it is mapped to the curriculum, and more specifically, our local curriculum, not just the bigger markets like the US, but to our curriculum. This is the England national curriculum. If you are on a call from Wales or Scotland or Ireland, they do have those versions as well. So we can absolutely send those to you to make sure you've got the documentation you need and see how it links to your curriculum. Okay, but that is a brilliant document. You'll start to see then the coverage that this kit has and the fact that it'd be very, very worthwhile and easy to integrate into the lessons. Okay, so with the curriculum in mind, I want to bring your attention to this unit plan overview. So as you can see on the left-hand side, in a faint pink, in a beige and a blue, you've got progression step 2, 3, and 4. I want you to think of that as the first one is years 1 to 3 kit. The beige one is the 4 to 6 kit, and the light blue is the 7 to 9. And what this diagram is showing you is the different units it covers with those kits. And the reason being is the units reflect what is needed to be taught in the national curriculum. So you can see when we're teaching years 1 to 3, they are just dipping their toes into the computer science world, and therefore they need to know the basics. They need to know sequencing, debugging, events, and loops. And you can see every single one's got AI and data. For the years 4 to 6, we're taking it up a level. We're looking at events and loops, but we're bringing in now conditionals like if-then blocks, And we've also got variables in there as well. And then for years 7 to 9, again, taking it up another level, we're looking at loops, conditionals, variables, and this time functions. So that's what each of the kits offer in terms of unit coverage. Now, this time round, LEGO Education have adopted a one model, two lesson approach. So let's take this one, for example. This is variables in the years 7 to 9. And you can see that they've got the first two lessons. The first one is called Save or Score. And this is where students will modify a variable and describe how variables determine the outcome of a program. So they're going to build a specific model and they're going to modify a variable. The second lesson will be a very similar build, if not the same, but they're going to take their coding one step further. So this time they're going to create their very own variables instead. And then it repeats it for another group. So we've got NAP needs. So students will create variables and perform operations. And then the next one will be a similar or the same build. And it is students will debug and develop a program that uses variables with random values. So that's the approach. One model, two lessons. And it's good because there's a familiarity. It speeds up the building process and it puts the sort of the focus on the computer science concepts. And then the final one in each unit is a design challenge. Now, I did say at the start, there's 6 lessons per unit. You're probably thinking there's 5. The design challenge is a 2-lesson long challenge. And this is where pupils will have more of an open-ended challenge, whereby they're going to apply whatever skill they've been practicing, in this case, variables, to their own sort of project. So really, really fun, open-ended, and it'll really show what the kids have absorbed across that unit. And then for each of the lessons, I've showed you sort of a little snippet of the teacher portal and the presentations. But every lesson, and they had this for Spike as well, they adopt a 5E instructional model. And that is just basically a certain way that they've structured the lessons to make sure it's engaging, progressive, and the pupils get everything they need out of it. So you can see they've got the 5 E's. You've got engage, which is basically what we'd call the hook in a lesson. We give them a big question to get them talking in groups about the topic, and it gives them context about what we're about to do. Then they move on to explore, and this is where the kids get stuck in. They grab their colored minifigures, they're building together, and they're actually predicting and trying out what this model does. Then they move on to explain, and that's where you sort of check in as a class. You sort of regather as a class and talk about what we've learned so far, and they'll articulate that with their peers. And this is a really good time for us to give our little input as teachers and address any misconceptions if there are any at that point. And then we move on to elaborate, which is then we're sort of opening up and expanding on the challenge that we've done already. And then finally evaluate, or in other words, a plenary, where the pupils will get to share their projects and sort of consolidate what they've learned in terms of the skill that session. So a really lovely structure. A proven structure that's been used for many, many years. Okay, so I've given you a lot of information there on the teacher portal, on the student resources, but it's really hard to imagine what it looks like without seeing it in action. So what I'm going to show you now is a computer science lesson where pupils are learning all about events and event blocks. Okay, so let's have a little look.
Ready to excite your students with computer science and AI? In this screen-free lesson called Behavior, students will engage with the concept of events, which are actions that can cause something to happen within a computer program. We kick off with a big question to spark curiosity. What happens when a bee sees a flower? The question ties directly into real-world concepts, making it relatable to both students and teachers. We'll explore the topic through the computer science concept events. In groups of 4, each student picks a minifigure, which indicates their roles in the collaborative building process. Students will build a bee with a color sensor and double motor. Students take turns showing Lego bricks to the color sensor and explore how the bee responds to different colors, which are pre-programmed into the hardware. Students will describe events with a sentence, when blank, then blank. For example, when the bee sees yellow, then it moves forward. Then students use what they've learned about events in their own creative builds. A flower, a beehive. These colorful builds all activate different bee movements. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to say, I can describe different events. I can explain how an event works. I can model an event. This is the first of 4 lessons in the events unit. As students progress to the next lesson, they will use Coding Canvas to program different events and practice debugging strategies. At the end, they can apply what they have learned through an open-ended design challenge. All materials for this lesson can be found on the LEGO Education Teacher Portal. Lesson plan, ready-to-use classroom presentation and facilitation notes. No extra prep time needed.
Okay, so there's an example of the computer science lesson in action. You can see that lesson actually did involve the coding canvas. It was using the color sensor and the pre-programmed behavior to see what happens when they show different colors, a bit of a cause and effect. And then they would move on to the second lesson, which is the same build, but then they're using the coding canvas to use event blocks. Okay, so that's the computer science side. The part we haven't looked at yet is the all-new artificial intelligence. And Lego have taken a specific approach to this. If you attended the BET show this year, you may have sat in on Andrew Swilinski's keynote presentation all about the new computer science and AI kits. If you didn't, this is what he had to say. He said that AI literacy shouldn't be about teaching children how to use this magic box that sort of spurts out incredible outputs. It should be all about handing the children a screwdriver to take the magic box apart and build things from the pieces. And what he's trying to get at with that point is he firmly believes that we should be teaching our pupils about what AI is and actually how AI works, as opposed to just knowing how to write a good prompt and get good outputs from it. And this is what the whole sort of AI approach is with these kits. It's all about knowing how to train your own AI models, how AI models actually become more reliable with the more reliable data you give it. We've seen this already with image generation. You know, gone are already the days of swirly faces when we're trying to generate an image on ChatGPT. That's gone because it's been given more and more reliable data. But what's great about these kits as well is that it sparks important conversations around AI and its ethics, when it should be used, and more importantly, when it shouldn't be used. Okay, so AI, as we know, is all about giving it lots and lots of data. So it goes without saying, we need to be very, very careful with data. What springs to mind is the 4-letter acronym GDPR, and it's a nightmare for teachers. And it's something that if something seems a bit risky, we're never going to take that risk as teachers. You know, the pupil is at the heart of what we do, and we need to make sure that they are safe. And Lego Education have built this into their new platform. They've designed something that's safe, it keeps the privacy of the child at heart, and it's accessible. And you can see in these points here that all the AI features that are used run locally on the device. No data leaves that device, especially doesn't go anywhere else, like to the Lego group, for example. All of it is kept on the device. And the data is actually collected with a camera. And you're probably thinking camera, photo, child face is a no-go. They've already thought about that. And what they've done is when the pupils are using the camera, it completely blurs out their face. And the only thing it picks up on is body posture. And then they use that body posture data to train their own AI models. Okay. If you're a computer science teacher or familiar with some of the other AI pieces of software out there, you've got things like Teachable Machine, which is what I used to use as a teacher. And used to take loads of photos of like a pencil case, loads of photos of a pen, train the model, and then when you held it up, it would recognize which one was which. It's a bit like that, but they can completely blur it out, and it's just the body poses, so much, much safer. And then when it comes to how it looks across the different kits, this is sort of the progression. So for Key Stage 1, they do learn about AI, but they use something called pre-trained classifiers, which means that it's already been trained. All they're doing is holding up their arms in certain poses, and it will make their robot do something in particular because it's already been done prior to the lesson starting. When you start moving into years 4 to 6, they get a chance to make their own custom classifiers. So they're going to say, I'm going to take loads of pictures with both arms up. That's going to be one group of data. I'm going to take loads of pictures with my arms down. That's going to be another group of data. And they can as they then train their AI model, they can actually do those poses in front of the camera and have an impact on what the robot does. And then the final one, to take it up another level with the 11 Plus, they are able to use body sensing tools like tracking key points like their nose, different angles, different distances, and even movements. Again, all blurred, just picking up on single points of their body. So again, similar to the computer science, what does an AI lesson look like in action? So what I'm going to show you now is a year 4 to 6 lesson, which is called Strike a Pose. And it's all about training an AI model and then using that trained model to control a robot's movement. And the aim is to try and get the robot to mimic your movement. So if I put my right arm up, the little robot puts the right arm up. If I put both arms up, the robot might also put both arms up if I programmed it that way. So let's dive into it. Let's have a look at what it looks like.
Ready to excite your students with computer science and AI? This lesson is called Strike a Pose. Students will learn how to customize an AI classifier and program AI-activated events. We'll kick off with a big question to spark curiosity. How could you train a robot to follow your movements? We will explore the topic through the computer science concepts, AI, and data. The question is tied to a real-life example, how AI can be trained to recognize images through data. This makes it more relatable to both students and teachers. In groups of 4, each student picks a minifigure, which indicates their roles in the collaborative building process. The group will build a robot with movable arms and discuss how it might work. Then it's time to get hands-on with coding. Groups will open Lego Education Coding Canvas, enter the lesson pin, and connect their hardware. Students create and train their own AI custom classifier by posing in front of the camera and capturing pose data. With simple pre-made code and their classifier, groups explore making the robot mimic their arm poses. Group members take turns so everyone gets hands-on. 2 students develop the build of the robot while the other 2 iterate on their code, and later they swap. Students present their robot, talk about their iteration process, and discuss how they created and trained their class. At At the end of this lesson, students will be able to say, I can create a custom classifier. I can use pose data to train a custom classifier. I can describe how to create a custom classifier and use data to train it. This is the third of 4 lessons in the AI and data unit, where students explore how computers learn from data. In the following lessons, students investigate how data quality and quantity can improve how their AI detects their poses. At the end, they apply what they've learned through an open-ended design challenge. All materials for this lesson can be found on the LEGO Education Teacher Portal lesson plan, ready-to-use classroom presentation and facilitation notes.
Oh, skip forward, but that was the end anyway. So hopefully that gives you sort of a bit of an insight as to what it might look like. What you might have noticed as well within that lesson is that they also had different roles as they were coding, and after the building they were coding and re-engineering the design. So 2 children worked on the code, and 2 children were actually tweaking the design of their robot, and then they switched over as well. So there's always a role for a child to be doing in that group of 4 throughout the building process, but also through the coding process as well. Okay, so that is the LEGO Education Computer Science and AI Solutions. What I would recommend you guys do next is, if you want to see how much of an impact it has, if you want to have more of an insight into the lessons, use the curriculum mapping and see exactly how it fits into your school and ticks the boxes that you need to tick. Explore that teacher's portal. Like I said, it's completely free. Just create a LEGO account and you can explore every single lesson on there. And then if you have more specific needs and want further input, I'm more than happy to have a one-to-one with yourselves to discuss how we can fit this into your provision. But all I need to say now, or all I will say now, is thank you very much. And I'd like to take the last couple of minutes of this webinar taking any questions